Well, federal courts have temporarily blocked several of President Joe Biden's vaccination requirements. But for now, Indiana employers can still make their own vaccination policies. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Justin Hicks reports some employees objecting to vaccine requirements have filed religious exemptions as a way out, and a new state law might make that even easier to do.
Currently, most employers follow guidance from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It says for just about any work requirement, companies should be open to making religious accommodations. But that process is supposed to be an interactive conversation, not an order from the employee. Navigating those conversations under federal law can be tricky. If not handled the right way, the EEOC could impose stiff penalties for discrimination. Rigel Oliveri, law professor at the University of Missouri, says there are still reasons employers could refuse religious exemptions for COVID-19 vaccines.
First of all, the accommodation must be reasonable, and it must not create undue hardship on the conduct of the employer's business.
Undue hardship is typically measured in terms of cost. So if a company can prove an exemption significantly affects their bottom line, it can get thrown out. Another reason, the EEOC says religious accommodations can be refused if they get in the way of workplace safety.
So I can clearly see many employers now saying, I can't grant this exemption because it will cost too much if we have to be quarantining, if it causes us to have to close down or it causes people to have to wear PPE. So, right away, you can see the potential costs to the businesses are very likely to justify any refusal to grant an exemption.
Now, on top of those rules, add a new layer of complexity for employers. Indiana Republican lawmakers have signaled they want to have state laws on employers and vaccines. A recent bill would force all employers to grant religious exemptions. Christopher Schrader handles government affairs for the Indiana Society of Human Resource Management. He says the way that the draft is currently worded could remove an employer's ability to refuse exemptions or even ask questions to determine how it could affect the workplace.
This is them trying to navigate around a lot of stuff. And so I'm not willing to step out and say they took it out. I mean, this is a working paper. This is the roughest of rough drafts. At best, its statement of intent.
Schrader says there's a lot to juggle between proposed action from state lawmakers in January and a federal vaccine or test rule hanging in legal limbo. He's most worried for companies that don't have strong human resource teams or even none at all.
It does take more than a little experience and practice knowledge to successfully navigate what is on one side a highly politicized issue, which is also a medical issue, which is now going to get dragged into the religious realms. Skilled HR will handle it, and the other folks will step on landmines.
As state and federal rules around vaccines and exemptions seem poised to change, his best advice to human resource workers trying to make sense of it all is simple. Stay tuned and stay prepared. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Justin Hicks.
While the legislature works to curtail vaccine mandates, Governor Eric Holcomb this week signed the 21st month-long extension of the state's public health emergency. Holcomb's emergency order says about 95% of recent COVID-19 hospitalizations and 75% of deaths in the state involved unvaccinated people, and stated that, quote, the virus remains a threat to the health, safety, and welfare of all residents of Indiana. The executive order contains a handful of administrative actions, but no business or crowd restrictions.